It was a wild weekend for BC sports, with basketball having a clunker, hockey finding some success before blowing another game, baseball having an awful weekend, and lacrosse again setting records. All of this and more on today's Locked On Boston College.
You are Locked On Boston College, your daily podcast on the Boston College Eagles, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
This is Locked On Boston College. I am your host, AJ Black. Today's show is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, on Saturday, Boston College basketball headed out to Syracuse for their rematch against the Syracuse Orange. And this game had a lot of interesting side notes going into this. Now, Boston College played against Notre Dame just a couple days before, and they were shorthanded. TJ Bickerstaff with a leg injury was out, and also Quentin Post, who was out with illness, had missed the last two games. So they were down quite a few bigs. And at first, it didn't look like that was going to be a big deal against the Irish. But as the game wore on, and James Karnick fouled out, James Vanderbond fouled out, and then they were down to, Gianni Thompson fouling out. They were just running out of bigs, and it ended up killing them in overtime. Well, going into this game, you're hoping you get at least one guy back, because then you could manage having, Karnick and one of the other guys and having Vanderbond as a backup. Well, they got Quentin Post back. Bickerstaff is still out, but Post was ready to go. That didn't matter. I mean, going into this game, I thought, BC just never matches up well against Syracuse, and especially with Earl Grant as the head coach, and the way this roster is set up, they're just not set up right to beat this team. First of all, on offense, BC against that zone, you need to be able to shoot the 3-pointer. BC can't do that. They can't shoot. I mean, we've seen that over and over again, right? They shot 7% in the first half from the 3-point range. 7%. 1 for 14. Not going to win any games doing that. Then, on top of that, Syracuse has those lights out. It seems like every year they have a handful of lights out 3-point shooters. Now, this year, it's a bunch of them that have the last name Boeheim behind it, with Buddy and Jimmy Boeheim. But also add in Cole Swider, the guy who killed BC about 11 days before with some big threes. You add him in there, and you're in trouble. Because once they start hitting threes, and they hit threes, they shot 46% from 3-point range. Boston College never had a chance. And BC fell behind early, and, Syracuse let them crawl back in. Syracuse was really kind of sloppy in this game. I don't think they did all that well in terms of putting BC away. I mean, at some points in this game, they should have been up by 30. I mean, the way that they were playing. But BC crawls back in. They were only down by 12 at one point. They're really starting to dig in and kind of get back into it. And then what happens? Swider hits a three. There's, a couple other crazy plays, and Syracuse puts the game away. So, nothing else to take away from this game. It was just another mess. I mean, BC, turnover-wise, they had 12 turnovers in the first half. You're not going to win that. And then offensively, the biggest issue that came out of this game, I don't think is going to be a big issue moving forward, was DeMar Langford got hurt. Now, he had 10 points in the first half, and against that zone, he was the only one getting points. And it was one of those just like, oh man, how many more things could fall for Boston College? Because Langford, I mean, all year long we've been preaching that he needs to find his shot, and he just started to find it. He is really starting to find his groove, and had 10 points in that first half, looking like he was going to be that guy again. And he, after the game, Earl Grant said it was a toe injury. He stubbed his toe. So that doesn't sound like, to me, like a big injury. I'm not sure. I don't think like a toe injury will keep him out that long. Like, even if he broke it, like, I've stubbed my toe many times. I've never broken it, but maybe he hit it so hard that he did. I still think they could probably make it so he could play. But he was on the bench the whole second half. And that was a big loss for BC, losing him. But I think he'll, the BC plays today against Florida State. This is the makeup game against a team that, due to that COVID cancellation about a month ago, December. So this will be a makeup game for BC at home. Hopefully Langford will be there. We'll see what's going on with Bickerstaff. The other player that needs to kind of step up as well is Mekhi Ashton Langford. Now, as much as we've said that he's had some really big games this year, he's also been wildly inconsistent. I mean, going into the Notre Dame game, he was 9 for 33 in the last 2 games. 9 for 33 is not going to do it when you're the volume scorer that he has to be. And it kind of sucks because it's not supposed to be his role. Like, he's a facilitator. He's a guy that can be your third or fourth scoring option. But they have him in as the first scoring option because they don't have any other options out there right now. His brother is starting to turn it on to be that, but in the interim, it had to be Mekhi Ashton Langford, right? So we'll have to see how BC kind of picks themselves up. They've lost 11 in the ACC. I think it's 5 in a row now. And Florida State's a good team. Florida State is a good team, or at least they have been good in the past. They're only 14-12 this year. Leonard Hamilton's a really good coach, though. But they have some really questionable losses that might actually turn out to put BC in a good spot. They lost to Georgia Tech, Virginia Tech, Clemson, and Pitt. All teams BC has beaten. But they've lost I think they've lost like 6 of the last 7. So they're like right in the same ballpark as BC. But they've also beaten Duke. So you never know what you're going to get. But a quick turnaround, and at home for both of these teams, it's a quick turnaround for Florida State too. So at least BC is getting some home cooking. It's a 7:00 game on the ACC network. This might be one of BC's best chances of grabbing a win here, especially if Bickerstaff can come back and DeMar Langford is healthy. So we'll have to wait and see what happens there. Now in a moment, we're going to jump in and talk about baseball, which had their first opening weekend down in Austin Peay, and it was a disaster for the Bird Balls. You're going to hear why in just a moment. Football might be over this season, but basketball is in full steam for both pro and college hoops. From all the latest odds, totals, player performance props to where the next fired coach is going to land, BetOnline.net is the #1 spot for all your sports betting needs. BetOnline remains the best spot for all your sports scores, podcasts, and news this season. And it's not just basketball. BetOnline.net is your source for hockey, boxing, and UFC odds right to your Olympic coverage and information. Head to the website now or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends in action. Head on over to BetOnline, where the game starts. This is Locked On Boston College. AJ Black, editor and publisher of BCBulletin.com. Check out all my work over there. We're now in the midst of baseball season. I know it's only the middle of February, but Boston College baseball is down south starting to kick off their season with some games against Austin Peay this weekend, or Austin Peay. They are they played a 3-game series, and it started off, heading into the season. Let's kind of jump in a little bit. This is going to be a big year for Mike Gambino. We're going to start off right there because they made some coaching changes. I know they got a new pitching coach and they added another staff member in the offseason. So they've juggled his staff quite a bit. And that usually is a sign like, hey, you got to figure some stuff out here or you're going to probably be next, is kind of where my view is when coaching changes happen like that. But heading into the season, they lost some of their studs from last year. They had 2 guys go in the draft pretty high. And this year, they're going to have, a lot of question marks. And so this weekend series against Austin Peay, a team, 150th, I think, in RPI, should have been a pretty easy weekend for the Eagles. And it started off well for them. They started off in the first game. Joe Mancini throws, pitches pretty well. He throws 5 innings, only allows 1 earned run. The bullpen looks great too. They only let up 1 earned run as well through 4 innings. Charlie Kuhn, Brennan Coffey, and Julian Tonghini do pretty well. They let up 3 runs in 4 innings, and the bats are alive. You get some good hits from, you get big games, from Peter Parker Lendwar and Joe Fatrano. And so you start, and then up and down the lineup, they get, they mash out 9 hits. They do fine. They win 8-3. It looks good. But you start looking at what happens on Saturday and Sunday, and you start scratching your head and going, oh, God, this is going to be one of those years again. And it's because BC then proceeds to lose 2 straight walk-off losses against Austin Peay. And in these games, BC had leads of 8-0 on Saturday and 10-1 on Sunday. So they had humongous leads and couldn't hold either of them against Austin Peay and blew both of them. And in the second game on Sunday, They had 17 runs. They lost 18-17. And both of these games ended with walk-off walks. Just bad. Bad. There's no way to put this. You let up 10 runs on Saturday and 18 runs on Sunday. So obviously that's an ERA of 14 for the second half of this weekend. And it's the bullpen. The bullpen was gross. It was awful. Joey Ryan on Saturday, 4 earned runs in 1 inning. And on Sunday, he comes back out and doesn't get an out and lets up 3 runs. Just go down I'm not going to pick out each individual pitcher because you just go down the the relievers on Sunday, and it was bad. They had 9 walks on Sunday. They let up 17 hits, 18 runs, just awful. And again, this is a game that should have been a warm-up game for Boston College. Now, you didn't have Mason Pelio go this weekend, but he's not a reliever. You're going to need, Pelio in the years past has gone 5-6 innings. You need someone who can get outs. You're not going to win any games if you're going to have your bullpen play like this. So, just atrocious. And you don't know, you look ahead and you know that you have tougher games coming up. You have USC Upstate, North Florida are all going to be better teams. Then you start your ACC schedule with Miami. Good luck, because this is going to be an ugly season. Now, the positive, obviously, if you score 17 runs, you got some good hitters out there. They had 10 runs the day before. Luke Gold is going to be an excellent second baseman for BC. So the offense is there. It's just, for the second year in a row, this team has no pitching. Or at least right now. And I'm going to try to stay level-headed and not say that this is going to be a issue. It's one weekend. One weekend, a lot of things can happen. I will wait to panic or bang the drums, if it becomes a theme. And so they play next weekend on Friday against Presbyterian and George Mason. So those are 2 games to kind of keep an eye on. Presbyterian, they're 2-1. They won 2 out of 3 games against North Florida. So they're gonna have a game on Wednesday against Georgia Tech. So we're gonna get a better chance to see how this team does against good offenses and good teams. But I don't know if this is how this season's gonna go for Boston College. Mike Gambino's seat is going to be scorching hot because, as I said to start this segment off, they've already made the changes to his roster. They have a brand new stadium with brand new freight center and all the new amenities up there in Brighton. And you can't bring a coach. You have a coach that comes in and for the second year in a row looks like he's going to have a team that's going to be the bottom of the ACC. The recruiting doesn't look like it's there. The issues seem like it's going to be. It seems like a big issue right now. So I have to imagine that if this continues this year, if it happens, if this weekend happens every weekend, it's going to happen before the end of the year. My goodness, this was a really, really bad weekend for BC baseball. But if they struggle and are, the bottom feeders of the ACC again, you have to think that Kraft is going to make a move at some point. I'm not big into, asking for guys' heads, but Gambino's been there for quite a while now and hasn't had success in a while. Since they got deep in that playoff run. I don't know how many more years you can just say, it'll be next year before you start demanding results. And when you're putting money like you are into this program now, you need to get results faster. Just the way it is. That's the way college sports are. So I'm not sure if anything, hey, maybe this was a fluky weekend. But I'm just saying, if this continues, I imagine by May, BC will be looking for a new baseball coach. But we'll wait and see. Gambino's a great guy, and I don't wish any ill on him. I look at the results and I say it how it is. Now, in a moment, we'll get into some other results from around the weekend. There's a lot of sports to talk about. We're going to talk about women's lacrosse, big weekend, kicking the snot out of BU, hockey, and everything else in between. Now, if you've made this your first listen every morning, if you check out Locked On Boston College every day, thank you. it means a lot to me that you found that our podcast is the best way to get your Boston College sports. We're the only one that does this 5 days a week, and I appreciate each and every one of you that have made us your first listen every morning. If you haven't already, find a time to do it. We're like a 20-minute to 25-minute podcast every day that talks about all the Boston College news, and I give you the analysis and my takes on everything. And you may not agree with it, and I'm fine with that. I mean, this is just me, knowing what I know, talking what my talk. But I don't expect you to agree with me, but hopefully I give you some interesting thoughts. And if you like us, tell a friend or two. Say, hey, check out Locked On Boston College. It's a really cool podcast, and it's really well done, or whatever you think about me. AJ's obnoxious. If people hate me because I'm obnoxious, that's fine too. But check out Locked On Boston College every day. We're here 5 days a week, wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube. This is the time of year that I've pretty much given up on all my New Year's resolutions, but not this year. I'm sticking to my resolution to eat right thanks to Built Bar. It almost feels like it's not really a resolution because I actually enjoy eating them. Have you tried the Puffs yet? If you haven't, you're missing out on one of the best Built Bar's creations that they've ever come up with. Puffs are the first ever protein-infused marshmallow. They're fluffy, they're marshmallowy, they're not just a protein bar, they are a treat, and they're covered in 100% real chocolate. They've got some really great flavors in the Puffs too, like the cinnamony churro, the coconut marshmallow, and banana cream pie. They're so good. You gotta check these out. All Built Bars are covered in 100% real chocolate with low calorie, high protein. You're gonna replace your candy bars with these. They are better. A typical candy bar can be anywhere from 200 to 300 calories. Built Bar, 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, 4 net carbs, and 17 grams of protein. You can't beat that. They got great flavors, including mint brownie, coconut almond, and new this month, white chocolate cookies and cream. Sounds delicious. You're going to need to check it out. With all these new great flavors, you need to head over to Built.com and use promo code LOCK15, and you're going to get 15% off your order. Again, use promo code LOCK15 for 15% off at Built.com. This is Locked On Boston College. I am your host, AJ Black. I'm also the editor and publisher of BC Bulletin. I hope you had a great weekend. I sure did. Now, you know who else had a great weekend? Charlotte North and the BC women's lacrosse team. BC women played their third game of the season against BU, a home game, in which they absolutely trounced the Terriers 22-6. Now, Charlotte, this was a big game for a few reasons. First of all, Charlotte North set a ACC record for the most goals in a career with 284. That happened after her fourth goal. Now, BC was on a completely other planet from BU. They jumped out to a 9-2 lead after the first period, 16-2 by halftime. It was over. You got big games again from Belle Smith, who had 3 goals. Jen Majid, who continues to have a huge year. She had 5 goals. She's putting up all if it wasn't for Charlotte North, we'd be talking about her for a Tuarton Award. But Charlotte North again, had another enormous game. She had just 4 goals on the day, but she is on another planet right now. The way she's playing, again, she is one of the best athletes in Boston College history. And the fact that we should be able to all get to see her play soon, I think the fans should try to get out there and check her out. Just to watch someone that is the top of her sport. What a game. 3-0, 3-0 now on the season. They're going to, they get a better game starting off on Wednesday. They're going to head to Charlottesville to face Virginia in the ACC opener. So make sure to check that out. We'll have coverage up on bcbulletin.com. Also this weekend, BC Hockey had 2 games in a home against Northeastern. Now, BC had not won a game in 2022, which is shocking, but they broke that record with a win on Friday, with 4-1 win at Matthews Arena. So BC goes up with goals from Kobe Ambrosia, Trevor Kuntar, Mark McLaughlin, and Marshall Warren. Mark McLaughlin is back from the Olympics. But the good news ends on Saturday, as BC loses 4-1 to Northeastern. Now, there's only 4 more games left, and not looking very good for BC. If they're going to continue to play the way that they've been playing, they got 2 against BU and 2 against UMass. And the way that BC matches up against BU, Not very good. BU's pretty good, and UMass is obviously one of the best programs in the country right now. So it's not looking good heading into Hockey East time for the Eagles. But hey, they got to win. I mean, is that really where BC hockey is right now? BC hockey for years has been, for decades, has been the talk of the campus. It's obviously like the marquee program, but it's not anymore. They're not playing like it. Just want the season to end so that we can stop talking about how bad BC hockey is. Final little note. Brian Flores, Boston College linebacker, who was fired by the Miami Dolphins to end the season after going 8-9, has found a new job. He's going to be a senior analyst. I think it's just in charge of linebackers, but he could be the linebackers coach too. Sometimes these job titles are a little vague. They hired him. Mike Tomlin, again, this weird Boston College connection with Mike Tomlin starting to form up, right? His son Dino is at BC. He hires, Brian Flores. So Flores found a new job. He's not going to be a head coach, not going to be a defensive coordinator, but hey, it's a gig, right? And actually, I totally forgot. There was one more piece of news that I completely forgot to bring up, which was on Friday. Boozie Onwuka announced that he is going to return to Boston College. Now, he's a defensive tackle. You know him as Chibuzi. Jeff Halfley and the roster refer to him as Boozie Onwuka. He had 19 tackles. He was a starting defensive tackle for BC in 2020 before he blew out his hamstring in 2021. This is good news. He's good. I like him as a player, and he's definitely an upgrade from what we saw in 2021. No knock to the guys that played last year, but having him there, he's a good complementary player. He had 2 sacks, 2 forced fumbles. He can be disruptive. And there was no word whether he was going to come back or not. He had an extra year for a medical red shirt because he didn't play this year. But he announced it on Instagram, so that's a plus. I mean, think of it this way, right? So for some people who are wishing for BC to be so active in the transfer portal, think of this as a transfer portal win, right? You got a guy that in your system that has done pretty well. I mean, who else are you going to get out there right now at defensive tackle that could do what he does? You're not going to find him. And there's other guys out there. The guys that are above them are going for NIL deals, right? They're going for those school or playoffs or top of the line blue chip schools. They're not coming to Boston College. So I think this is a big win for BC. He improves the defense. Is he a game changer? Nah, I don't think he's a game changer. But he definitely gives you some stability on that defensive line, one that I thought was underperformed a lot last year. So that's good news. Hopefully that Achilles injury isn't a big factor in his speed and the way he played, because he was quick. I thought he was a quick, undersized nose tackle that did pretty well in 2020. So good to see him back. Now, if you want to check us out, we'll be back tomorrow to talk about the Florida State game. Hopefully it'll be a win for the Eagles. We'll talk a little bit more about everything else going on this weekend and everything that you want to know about Boston College sports. Make sure to check us out on Twitter at LockedOnBC. You can follow me on Twitter at AJBlack_BC. Feel free to go in there and yell at me about my takes. I don't care. I love a good thrashing every now and then. Thank you all for listening, and we'll see you all again soon. Take care, everyone.